Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Tonight, we're going to dive back into the material design in XAML and kind of pick up with where we left off last time. I am aware I have failed to post the YouTube recording of last week's session. That will be forthcoming possibly later tonight. I had a small issue with my automation, and then once I fixed it, I forgot to actually post a video. So we are going to look at that. But first, a couple quick announcements. One, faces in the over here. There last week I did a workshop with Git Kraken, how to undo Git mistakes like a pro. And if you missed it, the good news is the recording is now live. So gitkraken.com/workshops. They also have upcoming ones. This work trees in Git Kraken that is the one for November, which actual date TBD. Just with the timing of the other ones, I suspect it'll be end of the month ish. But that one should be very exciting. I love work trees, and so it will be cool to see that one come. But if you missed it, like I said, it is available, and actually, link on YouTube. It looks like Get Kraken has the YouTube one unlisted. So if you're subscribed to their YouTube channel, you won't see it there. But you can get the direct link underneath to watch it now. The other one is I did a talk last night. It's only been a day. I would like to think I can remember that far. With the Spokane.net user group, specifically talking about all of the cool things in C#.net. There's the past events. The past. Oh, it's going to make me log in. Cheater. This one, however, you can just go straight to Intellitek's YouTube, and you can find it. Or if you want a direct link, there's that one there. And there is all of the cool stuff. I will say, for the astute observers, there is a repo that I was working out of, the new Net9. And so if anybody is interested, just a fury of links. Underneath my GitHub, there is a new Net9 repository. The important thing here is all of the branches. This is the exciting stuff. And anybody who was paying really close attention in my talk realized I was an idiot, and I actually made a mistake because Git Kraken shows your commits in chronological order, which is great, except for I got all the way up through link. I went to JSON. I followed all the way up through JSON, and I completely skipped over the changes, the time span, and regex. Went, dang it. Didn't realize that till later. So, for anybody who wants a sneak peek, talk about it real quick now. Spoiler, there is very little that is revolutionary in this version of C# and .NET. It is a little boring, frankly. But there are a handful of nice little things that got thrown in there. So watch the full video for more detail. This one here, I don't know if anyone can even tell the difference. If you can see the difference in what was added in Net9 here, you get yourself a gold star. The key thing here is we go through and run this .NET run, right? You will note that these two values, right, are not matching, right? 831.999. The astute computer science person in all of us will point out and go, oh, I understand what's going on. This is a double. We have a floating point precision problem. We can't represent that in binary and yada, yada, yada. Because time span with its various from methods previously took doubles, which worked out pretty well, except for, in cases like this. Now the from methods have integer overloads. Huzzah. I know, really revolutionary and exciting. But it does mean then that you need to go through and do something of this nature. Great. Right? Again, nothing major revolutionary, but there's now in overloads. Okay, Regex, the thing near and dear to my heart. The way we go through and make lots of changes across the board. So for people unfamiliar with it, there is the source generator for Regex, something that came in version or two ago with .NET, where you can actually have the compiler generate um, the FSA for the regex, the parser for it, at compile time rather than at runtime. Because previously, what would happen is you would new up a new regex instance, and it would then have to parse this pattern at runtime. The source generator can actually do that same parsing at compile time, assuming your regex pattern is known at compile time. Obviously, this does not work if you've got some sort of dynamic building of this pattern or similar, right? But for a lot of us, the patterns are known at compile time. So we can gain some nice performance out of this, which is great. And so typically, if we had something like this where we were going to split across all of the words, right? So if I .NET run this beast, I'm going to put myself back over here. Right, we can see it breaks it apart per word. Great, huzzah. But the issue here is we had to build out an entire array. Now this can get big if this is a big string or similar, and so allocating big arrays is not great. And in this case, all we wanted to do was iterate over the collection of words. Not a big deal. If we look at what's new in Net 9, we get this lovely little guy. We can now enumerate splits, which means we can now iterate over all of these and pull out the individual ones. So if I .NET run this again, right, we can see we get the exact same output as what we got before. Individual words come through. Great. There's a couple interesting things that are happening here, though. This enumerate splits the data type, and then you'll also note that rather than just giving us back the individual words, it's actually giving us back a range. A lot of the stuff in C# and .NET this update are around performance, avoiding allocations. I oftentimes tell people in C# we don't have performance problems, we have memory problems, memory problems, memory problems. Because when the garbage collector runs, you freeze. And so the way we go faster is we don't run the garbage collector, which means don't make a mess. So if you make a mess, the garbage collector cleans up after you. If you don't allocate, there's nothing for it to clean up. It doesn't run, you go faster. And oftentimes that's where we see a lot of the significant performance gains is around memory allocation and memory management, rather than, just making an algorithm run faster. So here we end up getting back a range, and so we actually have to go back to the original string, and then we apply the range to be able to get back the individual result, because the range has a start and a length on it so that you know exactly where to pull from. So this is building on top of other things. The other interesting part here is this enumerable is not actually, and actually if I, back to my beloved Kraken, if I open this file manager, just pop this open in Visual Studio, because I think Visual Studio does this better than VS Code. There's an interesting thing to look at here. And if you watch the recording from the user group talk, I mess up. I get this var confused with a different var. I get all turned around. All right, so this enumerate splits is not just an IEnumerable of range. It's this regex value splitter enumerable. And you'll note, in the interest of making things go fast and avoid allocations, this is a ref struct. Now, this is one of those areas where I don't see a lot of people writing ref structs in day-to-day C#. They're great. They're awesome. You can use them to get very good performance, but you have to know what you're doing. And I think a lot of developers are more likely to consume them with APIs like this versus actually writing them themselves. But this guy here, you'll note, doesn't even implement IEnumerable. You cannot even go through and say, oh, well, I'm just going to enumerate this. I want this to be an IEnumerable of range, right? Just doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because for each is implemented with duck typing inside of C#. What that means is you can for each over anything that has a particular signature. In this case, a get enumerator, a move next, and a current. That's it. If your type has those members, C# does not care what you implement. IEnumerable happens to be a convenient way to ensure that you've implemented the needed members, not by any means a requirement. So, and I think I may have misspoke there. I think the for each actually needs the enumerator, and then the enumerator gives back the individual matches. I might have that wrong. Regardless, duck typing, magical members, things just work. So when going through and doing that, just be aware. If you see a lot of people going var, part of the reason is because that's an ugly looking type and I don't want to look at it. Generally, we only use var when the type is apparent, and I would argue right here the type is definitely not apparent. But it also looks kind of ugly to do this, so but the intent here is to really force people. If you say that you are going to enumerate over the splits, the only thing you should do is enumerate, right? The other thing that comes into play here, right, is you'll note that this thing doesn't have link methods on it. So you can't do like a dot where, dot, etc. Like none of those things exist simply because this the link methods are all implemented on IEnumerable. Right? Normally we think, oh, well, we've got a for each. I can just do a dot. No, that's not how this works, right? You end up doing something like this. And I don't doubt somebody is going to go through and write the relevant methods to convert this to an IEnumerable. But regardless, we are. So that's all that was missing. So if you missed the talk, you've now gotten the bonus content that last night didn't get because I was an idiot and missed these two branches. So once again, new Net9 repo out underneath mine. Huzzah. And then catch the recording on IntelliTech's YouTube for the full talk last night. Okay, close this sucker down. Let's close this sucker down. Okay, so material design. Right, I want to go back over here. I want to make sure because I think I saw my stale flag. Yeah. See, no, not stale. Knock it off. Knock it off. Knock it off. We are going to keep this. Don't care what you think, GitHub. Okay, so last time we put out a build of my XAML test, which was functionally the thing that was slowing us down on all of this. We jump back over here. What has gone on with my master branch? I want master here. Okay, and then if I look at NumericUpDown, be here. Okay, and this should be the same PR. Yeah, this guy here. Okay, good. You're all in the happy place. Go back here. So if I recall previously, my NumericUpDown tests were here, and I got a little bit of a warning from one of the other maintainers calling out that I may have an extra bug in here that is worth checking. So we're gonna just double check this. Okay, here. And I want to find out where I was going to look and see here what is blocking this. Because I think now there's numeric up, down, and then I think there is decimal up, down. Right? Oh, did we end up... Oh. I may have broken this, didn't I? Let me just take a little gander here at my test, because I know we were looking at this was the line in test base that was breaking me, that immediately got us into trouble. So this one here, if I do this and I go here and we go update NuGet package, and in this case I am interested in this, include pre-release. If this works, we will go and pop the Now I'm confused. Okay. Well, what is going on here? What is going on here? Do I not have automated deployment? Let's just... Then we'll test 4 open PRs. I got a lot of open PRs. Oh, we took care of a bunch of these last time. Let's see. So dependabot ones. Some of these merge. Fisting issue. Generic test base. Great. Great, great, great. Push NuGet. Yeah, that version right there, NuGet. Yeah, yeah, should be a thing. Why you dumb? Let's see here. Check and see. What do I have in my packages? Oh, you push PR branches before merge. No, 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 no. That would be a horrible, horrible thing. Um, but you make a good point, and I'm realizing what I've probably done is bad. Because I have probably made a mistake on my deployment mechanism. This is what happens when you have like 3 different ways of deploying stuff and you can't remember what you do. Okay, so we've got that. Pass to ignore, pull requests, blah, 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 blah. But if we come down here, right, so we very intentionally strip out PRs from uploading. Same with the pushing of NuGet. It almost looks like the push occurs before the auto merge. Well, but in this case, the push would still have to go to the master branch. So any push to the master branch triggers. But the important part here is the NuGet version. And my base version here is set to 1.0. And 1.0 is actually less than my published version, which is what is biting me. So I think the reason it isn't showing up properly is because I have never updated my base version. Yeah, so you'll note 1.2.1, but then I've got this guy, my preview release here. So effectively, my base version needs an update. So that's fine. We're gonna bump that real quick, and then in theory, what should be happening is I should be bumping my base version. Wants to sign in with GitHub. Let me in. Yeah. Oh, it's because the extension one. Yeah. Apparently, I have not done this in a while. Come on, figure yourself out. I just want to edit a file, right? I just want this to be 2, what it's going to end up being. And then in this case, we are just going to straight cowboy this in. Let's see, bumping base. The nice part though is trying to commit. Oh, create a new branch. Fine. See, I go back and forth on whether I like having to do that or not. Boom. Okay. I do wish there was an easier way for me to jump back to the repository. This should just have the one change. Great. And I am intentionally going to, and then this should enable auto merge, but boom, boom, boom. Okay, off to the races. Okay. We still haven't gotten back to the source generator bit, but that will be a different problem for later. But for now, we know the version that got published. We can just plug that in directly, and we are going. We will do that. Okay, so that will make a difference. Plugging in the wrong version. Yeah, the auto merge will still success even if it's skipped. And honestly, I go around and round on what the best deployment mechanism. I've kind of come to the conclusion that I like a value inside of my repository than relying on it something like a git tag. Like I want I think the best that I've come up with is I want to change something that's checked into source control that controls my version, or at least the base 3 digits. I don't mind that the fourth CI one is auto generated. That doesn't bother me. Simply because I like having that history available to me, and I like having to approve the version changes, that kind of thing. When you do it as a Git tag, it's outside the repository and it feels weird, right? Like it's not that mutable, but it's enough mutable that it bothers me. But I would also like my pipeline to gen the tag for me, because sometimes it's really nice when looking at the repository, especially when you're looking at the releases and the tags and having those things go together. So rather than having the tag be the trigger, I think I want the tag to be the result. But I go round and round on what is best, right? So it's like, okay. And we know we should have the new one because we have numeric up down and decimal up down as well, right? So both of these guys, the fact that it's now compiling is probably a good thing. But I was also cautioned that there may be an issue around if I go in and look at the analyzers that the test generator wasn't running properly. But hello? It no go when I clicky clicky. That is not normal. That gives me pause, but I also didn't restart Visual Studio after cowboying in that version change. So we're gonna do that first before I get too carried away. Let's see. I did autocomplete that PR, right? Let's see. Pull request. Yeah. Autocomplete set. So it should go. Excellent. So at least now the new preview builds will actually hit the right base version. And part of me wants to have actions that check to make sure that, you know, when I'm publishing a preview version, it's newer than what the release one is out there. Like there's cases where you don't want that. Like people have old and new things going, and so it doesn't work for everybody. But for the simple case, which is what most of my stuff is, kind of nice. Okay, so this gets us to here. I want to double check and make sure we actually see something in here. Here we go. XAML test editor generated a bunch of stuff, right? So we have the up down base int 32 decimal. Okay, so the generic bases are now working, which makes me happy. Down base and then the generic, and then it doesn't bother to generate more than that because those are the differences. If we go through and look at numeric up down, right? So a refresher for people who may have forgotten, there is numeric up down, which derives from up down base 2, which I think we're going to be renaming here in just a moment, and then up down base, which actually is the control itself. And the necessity of the generic comes from needing to abuse this arithmetic. Why did I not just I leave the 2 on there? Fix that while we're in here. That just looks dumb. That looks dumb. Okay. Because we have the usenet 8 or greater. So the other thing that I think people sometimes forget. So I have conditional code here, right? That is, you know, if net 8, if not net 8. So one is using newer generic math stuff. This little drop down up here in the top right hand corner of Visual Studio, when you've got a multi-targeted project, this lets you pick which state you're in. Right? So am I looking at the net 6 compilation? Am I looking at the net 8 compilation, the 462? So especially when you have like pound ifs, sometimes, you know, when you're working inside of it, it's kind of nice to take a look at what that one is. right? Because even though it's one code file, I've got multiple outputs. So if we were to look at the bin directory, I end up with at least 3 separate DLLs, one for each of the target frameworks. You'll also hear me call them TFMs, target framework moniker. It just means the name of the target framework. So it's not fancy. Okay, so did we write any? We did not. I think we're going to change this up down controls because I kind of want to put them all here together, and I kind of want the tests to reflect the hierarchy, because we can do a similar polymorphic type approach here, because in all of these tests we're kind of going to be doing the same type of thing. So let's do public class up down control tests. And actually, let's just grab this whole sucker here. And we're gonna genericize this out. We can paste, go up to the top, up down, control tests, do that, do that, do that. Great. And then we're gonna move you to a different type. Great. Okay, so this guy here also now needs to be abstract because we're gonna do some fancy stuff with it. And specifically, I want him to be T control, and I want to limit the T control. So move down here, where T control derives from up, down, base. All right, so we're just gonna straight up put a limitation on that. That way we can get, because I don't want numeric up down here. I want to do up, down, base. Or nope. I want to do T control here. And this will be interesting. Because now I have to do something interesting here. Let's do this. And then we're going to do this. And we're going to go type of T control name. I'm pausing here because we're doing now, we're taking a control name and putting it as a string to be able to go through and pull this back. Now get value gets interesting because I think the value only comes from the generic. Let's see, min value, max value, try parse, collapse this. Is value actually up on the, yep, min, max, all of these things live up on the generic. I might have to get a little fancier here. T value? Not sure if this is actually yeah. Because now we have to effectively duplicate this here. Where T value is that. But this is going to get interesting because I believe, let's see. One wants, oh boy, so we're gonna have to, this is gonna get fun. Pound if net 8 or greater. And if, right? So we can do this using numerics. This goes inside pound if net 8 or greater. And if. This will get that much going. Let's see. That'll fix that up. And at least for this, we aren't cross-compiling our UI tests. trying to decide how much I care to do this and how much I want to do something more clever. Because now this numeric up down should be T control, which should have get value on it. But the thing is I could also solve this with abstracts. Might be cleaner than trying to fight with this here. Might be cleaner than trying to redo it. Yeah, because this is gonna get ugly fast. Let's not go down this route. I wanna keep these tests easy because at the end of the day, this is an open source project and I need other people to help maintain this. So we can't get too clever. So let's change this up. Because there's another option here, right? So protected, abstract, T value, get value, do an I visual element of T control, element or visual element, right? So that gets me into there, that gets me into there, that closes that. Yeah, I do want to do T value. Wonder how bad is this? Because what we want to do is increment up and down. And we want to share this code. Because the other thing is we could just duplicate this. Is it worth duplication? Increase and decrease value. Should we duplicate? Because what are we actually sharing? These elements here. Everything else in the get text call. That's all we're sharing. Okay, I think I just decided we're abandoning this. But we are going to feel differently. So one of the things that you will hear people mention is the concept of dry. Do not repeat yourself. And this gets drilled into a lot of people's heads where you should not ever repeat yourself. And in general, that makes a lot of sense. However, it's important to understand where coding rules come from and the reason for them, because most rules are actually guidelines and can be broken as long as you understand the reason for the rule, and the pros and cons of breaking it. Because sometimes you just need to get something done. In this case, the idea of do not repeat yourself comes from the premise of you don't want to have to go make edits later in multiple places. It's a very easy way to get yourself bit in a lot of cases where if you have duplicated stuff in multiple places, in addition to being confusing, if it ever needs to be updated, it will be problematic. However, the thing to be aware of is that in some cases, if things are going to update at different rates, duplication is actually desirable over not duplicating. Izzy, welcome back. We are hopefully finishing up that numeric up down pull request that we fixed the XAML test for last time. So hopefully, based upon the feedback I left myself from months ago on the PR, the only limiting factor was getting the UI tests working, and the UI tests weren't working because of XAML tests. So I think we're about to run it and know here in a moment if this is actually a full fix or not. And then we should be off to the races. And I will be getting the YouTube video from last week posted because ironically I got a new phone and that broke my YouTube publishing for convoluted reasons. It's what happens when you have a publishing mechanism that is heavily dependent on some really wacky stuff. Okay, so UI tests. we should hopefully have up-down controls. Great. Okay, so I want to see all 8 of these pass. Hopefully they're simple. We could probably add some additional, there might be a short stream then. We will see. We will see. I've got a few other things I want to poke at, but there's a lot of material design stuff that's outstanding. Okay, so that is done. That appears to work. Good. The XAML test one merged. I think what I'm going to do is I am going to merge this PR with just the changes. So let's do this. Stage all changes. Updating with UI. Oh, my big head is in the way. Updating UI tests. Oh, how about updating UI tests? Updated new XAML test library. And then I think what I will do is I will kick a full release of XAML test, and then now that we know that it's working, which actually, since the other thing merged, we can just do that now. So let's see. The way we do this is we create a tag. And how am I naming my tags? V something? Yeah. Create tag here. So v1.2.2. And then we big head out of your way. Push tag to remote. And off to the races. Okay, so that will get that guy going. Let's go back to the material design stuff. Update with new test library. Move big head to the other side. Let's see. Added decimal up down. Go. Did I check what I had done here? Have you ever had to have a serial port or SSH terminal in any app before? I need to try and implement both. So I guess it depends on what you mean, Izzy. I have built. So at one point in time, I was working for a company that was building industrial printers. So these were printers that printed PCBs, so printed circuit boards. So printers the size of my desk that could kill me, which was great because of lasers and fast and heavy things moving. And a lot of the communication between the app and, like, say, the stepper motors for driving the tables was via serial communication. So I have done serial communication inside of like a WPF app. I have never done like an SSH terminal, unless you mean just like opening up an SSH connection inside of C#. I've never done, but I can't imagine it's terribly difficult. Okay, so I would like to look at this PR. Let's review code. Let's review code. Okay, so everything? Yep. Okay, so okay, so main window view model, we've got a new documentation link for numeric, decimal, up, down, base. That seems very reasonable. Let's see, we have a decimal up, down showing the steps, the new unique key. So the demo app seems fine. We have a new explicit style targeting decimal up, down right next to the numeric up, down. Great. And it is based on the same one that the numeric up, down one is. Probably okay. Okay, and that numeric up, down is based upon up, down, base. That seems fine. A lot of these styles are just flowing from that. I am realizing we should probably go and fix some of these. Or at least provide duplication from the name, because this is material design numeric up down, which is fine, but I think we actually want the styles to follow the base. So we will check that. Okay, decimal up down looks fairly simple and straightforward, though it still has up down base too, so we need to go look at that. Let's see. Make an app that can flash an image to an SOM and configure secure boot, but that process is 5050 RS-252 and SSH. Oh. Well, that's interesting. For people who don't know it, RS-252 is the serial port communication. Only viable UI is feedback. Yeah, and I will warn you, serial communication is, well, so I was doing, like I said, stepper motor communication, and it was difficult. Like, in my case, there wasn't good feedback. You could never be assured of anything. Like, the moment you start doing stuff with hardware, it becomes really hard to do anything conclusively, especially over serial. Yeah. If you run into something specific, Izzy, and you've got a sample or something you want to throw up, let me know. But that can be very interesting. Okay. I want to look at decimal up down. Why does this show? Why does this show up down base too? Something is dumb. Oh, because I haven't pushed. So it's not going to show. Okay. Okay, so it turns out if you go to review the PR, if you don't push your branch, you're looking at old code. That at least makes sense. Okay. World makes sense again. Still shows up down base too. That show out on GitHub. Am I just stupid? Am I just stupid? Okay, so maybe we'll do it here. Kraken, what? Why? When do you? It's like you've cached something weird. Exit review. Do I need to appear when I click it? That would be weird. All right, now I have to debug this slightly. Interesting. Wait a minute. So if I'm selected on this, and I click here, review code, do I get it? No. It must have cached something somewhere. Okay, I'm willing to bet I was just quick on the draw. That's interesting. I don't know how I got myself into that situation. Okay, well, I'm sure I got myself into that situation to start by not pushing, but then why it didn't update immediately after the push. Okay, this is a situation where side-by-side diff is almost assuredly going to be better. Okay, because there's all of that, and then most of that just gets deleted. Yeah. So up-down base contains almost everything of interest, and even though it shows as all net new, it's not that net new, it's just moved. Great. Tools manifest, this is just so that it shows up in the Visual Studio toolbox. Okay. Killed that test. We created new tests, and we know exactly how those worked. That makes me happy. Ooh. So Yonder Hornet, not to distract, but and don't worry about distracting. I love rabbit trails, especially for questions. I've had some issues testing Entity Framework Core context. Do you have any docs that might help for testing EF Core? Ah, so yes, but I'm going to preface them a little bit. So it depends on what you're trying to accomplish with. So For example, the framework core SQLite in memory. So a common pattern that people thought there was probably going to be, yeah, this and this are probably what I'm expecting to. I'm just sorry. I'm looking for something. Yeah, this is a so a couple links coming at you all at once, and then before you just blindly go and follow them, I will issue some words of caution. So, SQL or not SQL, EF is inherently a leaky abstraction. What I mean by that is you have a DB context side of EF that you've linked to a provider, and each of the providers supports slightly different things. So, one of the common testing methods, which is what this blog here is calling out, is to use an in-memory database. The advantages of an in-memory database is it's quick, it's fast, and it will at least validate a minimum level of functionality for you interacting with the DB context. The problem being is because it's a leaky abstraction, the moment you test the DB context with a different provider than what your real database is, you're only mostly confident that your code is right. Because you can never be 100% certain that switching providers isn't going to have slightly different behavior. And this is the why I say EF is a leaky abstraction. The moment you test with a different provider, you're not confident. Even if I was to go through and switch from like MS SQL to MySQL, even using EF, I'm only mostly sure that it's going to work. Because I could have some raw SQL in there, I could have some other stuff, but I'm pretty confident. And oftentimes, even with like, here I'll even show you this. Like Velopack does this, and this portion of the repo is closed source. So sorry. Don't worry. One, I'm the owner, and two, I own it, so we can show this. And my partner's aware that I do this, so it's okay. I got permission. Where's my tests? Oh, they're under the test folder. All right, so if I look at my API service tests, and I look at my down here, where is my web application factory? Yeah, so inside of my web application factory, which is a class used to test ASP.NET Core controllers functionally, I am spinning up a in-memory SQLite connection, and I am going through and I am configuring it so that I can leverage it with my tests. Now, my tests do not use SQLite for the real production, and I am using Azure SQL as my real one. But I don't have anything fancy in any of my EF stuff. So this gives me a high degree of confidence that if this works, it's going to work. Now, in those links that I sent you, there are two callouts here, and I'm hoping this blog post calls it out because it shows the in-memory provider, right? This thing is the next best thing to worthless. This gives you no confidence because by definition, it says in memory. It uses a provider that's basically if you were to back your database with lists of objects, which gives you no confidence that your link will convert to SQL. If you actually use the SQLite in-memory provider, you at least have a level of confidence that your link will convert to at least idiomatic SQL. And the SQLite in-memory provider, in general, is more restrictive than most other providers for bigger database things. Like Azure SQL supports more than what SQLite does. So typically when people test with SQLite, the limitation that they run into is they've got something that actually works with their real database, but fails with SQLite. Right? So like one of the things here, you'll note I'm creating a function for current date time offset because I leverage this sys date time offset, but SQLite has no idea how to do that. It just doesn't work. So I actually have to go through and do some work to register up a function to have SQLite support something that just doesn't work in SQLite. And the reason it doesn't work is because this thing isn't, or SQLite doesn't have the same level of precision, so this is technically a little bit off. I don't care. For my tests, I'm just looking to have a date time go in and have it be mildly close to accurate. I don't care that it's not the same level of precision as Azure SQL. That's not a concern I have. That's why it's not built in. And again, this is one of those, it's not there, and there's a reason for it, because they don't want people getting shooting themselves in the foot because of lack of precision. But for some of the testing like this, yeah, it's perfectly fine. So one easy option for you is SQLite in memory. So in a lot of cases, that will be sufficient to be able to go through and test it. In some cases, it will not be, and the most likely case that you will run into is SQLite does not support something your actual database provider does. I don't know, maybe you're building a mobile app and SQLite is your target database, in which case this is an awesome solution, right? Unit testing with EF, when your target database actually is SQLite because you're building like a mobile app, great. Now you've got an in-memory option that's the exact same provider as your real one. You're golden. Have fun. Sky's the limit. The other thing too that people will do is they will abstract their DB context with a repository pattern. So this is something that I think got popularized with like domain-driven design or similar, where you do something like this. And this doesn't let you, it doesn't give you a lot of good stuff to work with, right? Like it doesn't let you test your database, but it takes your database out of the test of the rest of your app. So it's like, I get twitchy around this, but it is a valid option that people go down. Let's see, is there any way to simply mock the DB context? I have a simple DB, so was really struggling to mock the DB context of regardless of the underlying tech. Not reasonably. Like kind of like Izzy says, you can mock your DB context, but it's generally not the recommended option. I would, if I was going to be mocking, I would end up doing something more akin to this, where the easiest option is you give your DB context a constructor that takes in the options, similar to how he has structured it here. New up the options with the SQLite provider, and then the rest of your code just works like it always has, and you don't need to change anything out. The only thing that's different is then in your real app, the options that get passed in are, use Azure SQL or whatever provider you're using under the hood to make it work. So rather than mocking, because the issue with mocks is mocks introduce seams in your code. And the way I've described it to other people in the past is it's kind of like a plumber who needs to run some pipes, right? If you think of your app that way, a seam in your code is like a fitting in that pipe. And wherever you get water leaks is typically right where that fitting is. However, fittings allow you to clear out clogs from smaller sections rather than having to run the whole length of the pipe. So you want some fittings, but you don't want too many, because if the entire run of your pipe is just fitting, that's a recipe for leaks, because you've got all of these possible leaky points. So in general, if you can avoid a seam in your code with mocks, it's oftentimes a little bit better. Isn't that what DB Factory is for when testing? So if you're referring to the DB Context Factory, it is a way of letting you create DB context on the fly. So context factory. So yes, if you are leveraging DB context, you can use this as testing, but this is really just factory pattern around the DB context. So it gives you an easy way of injecting it, but depending on what your code is, it means that the code leveraging it can't take in a context directly. It has to take in a DB context factory and call create context. A lot of it with the context factory comes down to what type of app you're building and what kind of lifetime control you need over that context. Because it's quite common for context to be registered scoped. And like in an ASP.NET Core situation, that's per request. Well, sometimes you need to actually say, well, no, I know that that's what it is, but I need to control this, and I need to either have my context be transient or singleton or whatever. So oftentimes when I see the factory getting used, it's because people have more interesting scenarios for managing lifetime than otherwise. Because the simplest thing is just to take in the context and act on that. And that's generally where the path of least. But yeah, if you are leveraging the context factory for something, great. Yeah. Yonder Hornet, let me know if that answers your question. Like I said, I think my recommendation to you wouldn't be to mock the context directly, but to do something with the options and indirectly handle it from the inside. A similar thing can be done with like HTTP client as well, where you don't actually mock HTTP client, but instead you either mock or substitute the handler inside of it to control the requests, which is a slightly better way of handling things, because then your code continues to use HTTP client as fat, dumb, and happy, and has no idea when the requests don't actually hit the network. EF is kind of the same way. Rather than mocking the DB context, you mock or replace the provider that it's using under the hood, and then the rest of your code continues to operate on the regular DB context and has no idea that the underlying pattern has been swapped out. So it's very similar to like dependency injection with your constructor parameters. It's just that you're one level deeper. Yeah, I think that does answer my question. I'll have to implement it to see if it works. Cool. And like I said, a lot of it depends a little bit on your application and what you're doing. But if you aren't doing anything fancy, SQLite in memory is generally what people do in a lot of cases. I do have some colleagues that have some interesting cases where the SQLite in memory was very much not sufficient. And so they do something a little close to more like integration testing. And so they spin a DB as a Docker container up as part of their pipeline runs, and then they have all of the tests pounding on a legit database instance. Now, it's in a container that they're going to throw away at the end of the pipeline run, but they have a legit database instance to go and pound on. And it is a little more integration-y test rather than unit test. But, yeah. In-mem SQLite caused me issues, but can't recall why. Yeah, the big ones that I'm aware of are around like date time offsets. Those are a common one. One more that I'm trying to remember what it is. Where in a lot of cases we end up doing the define function approach, right? Where you leverage this. I'm trying to remember. There's one more that I've hit that's a common limitation in SQLite. And I think, if I remember right, SQLite EF core limitations. I think they're actually documented right here. Query limitations. Oh, decimal. Yeah, that's the other one that bites. This guy here. Yeah. So this is the other one, and if you let's see here. So the key thing here is the function mapping is the one right below this. So if you need to actually end up mapping some functions, there are some call outs here of how to do it. Those two there might be useful links for you. Again, like SQLite generally is more restrictive than any other provider that you're using. So you should be fine if it passes with SQLite. It's just that sometimes people get really, really frustrated with it. Okay. I think what I decided. Oh, I don't think I want to leave this in. Emit compiler generated files. I think what I want to do though is I want this so often. I think I'm going to leave it commented out. I think I'm going to leave it there, but just comment it out. Let's see. That's fine. this is now no longer fine because my my thing deployed. So if I refresh, look at that. 13 minutes ago, I win. Now if I come back over here, I don't want to do those. I want to actually edit the file. I don't want to suggest changes. We're not suggesting changes. We are straight pushing this sucker. There. So we want this guy and we want latest version. Because XAML test was largely built for this library. Yeah, Yonder Hornet, let me know if you've got more questions. Feel free to drop them in. Again, I don't mind rabbit trailing. Let's see. So some providers handle collections and enums differently, so you may need to do something to be consistent if that's required. Yes, that is very true. I believe SQLite just converts enums to ints. There's always the fun problem with enums stored in a database that way, because how do you handle changes to the enum? Like, some people just say they're always additive, they're always at the end and will never go back. That's an option. So, oh, thank you, Yonder Hornet. I appreciate it. I appreciate the message as well. Always happy to help out. Okay. Okay, so we're going to push this, and we're going to pretend like we did it right the first time, because we're just going to hit the amend. We're going to say push after committing, and we're just going to send it. And we force push. We don't think. We just do. Okay, so that guy is now going. I am going to give this the seal of approval. Submit review. And then we are going to approve it to run, because it's coming from an outside fork, and then enable auto merge. Okay, so this guy should roll. This guy is going into 5.2. This guy is going to be labeled with release notes so that it shows up there. And then we should probably put it as an enhancement. This is very much... Oh, shoot! Hang on. Disable auto merge. I didn't fix the styles. I want to go fix those. Just want to see. I knew I was forgetting something. Let's see. Numeric up down. These guys. Okay, so the idea here is I don't want to remove style keys, because style keys would be a breaking change, and that is for later. But I think what might be nice, because right now, if somebody wanted to use, say, the filled style with the decimal one, there is no easy style here to leverage. Material design, filled. I think what I want to do is up, down, base. Actually, maybe what I should do is I should actually copy this. We're going to go, and we're going to create just a couple overloads for each of these that end up working. That way there is easy overrides for people who want them. All right, so this then becomes target type, X type, WPF, and this is going to be numeric up down based on, let's see, that is 100% wrong, Copilot. Thanks for nothing. Let's see, build down base. That goes like that, that goes like that, that goes like that, right? And so this then changes from numeric to up, down, base. Because the style key still exists, it will work for people who already have it, even though the numeric up, down control. So when is 5.2 release scheduled? See, the problem is you're assuming that I operate on a schedule. frankly, I really just release when I think that it is ready. And some people get a little twitchy about the preview releases, and I get it. Some companies don't like preview releases. They're seen as bad. I get it. That's kind of okay. The But with that said, it's 5.2 starting to get enough stuff in it. I probably just kick the button and have it go because it's not actually that hard for me to release. Like the pipeline does, I think, like 95% of the work for me now. The only thing I end up having to do is write up, like, it'll gen the release notes, but I always have to go through and edit a little bit, like, because it's genning them from the issues and the PRs. So I can't really fault it for not generating perfectly because sometimes things just, they don't look quite right. Okay, so we're going to go here. That goes like that. Yeah, so probably not that far. And really, in a lot of cases, I think people can use the can leverage the preview builds in a lot of situations. Like if there is a killer feature from 5.2 that somebody's really eager to have, it's not like the preview builds go through some sort of different quality gate. The only difference is how much testing that I've had to do on them because I'm often running the preview builds myself, just as a way of trying to put them through their paces. And I do see other downloads of them as well, so I know some people do grab them. Now I just got to make sure I decimal up down format. Okay, so let's see, filled numeric. And this is why I have to watch myself because I thought I had messed that up somewhere. Filled up down base, up down base. That goes there. Base type, up down base. This one here, up down base. That's fine. Numeric, decimal, decimal. Okay, so there is outlined, there is filled, both handled. And then I think all I need to do is the basic one. Let's see, there's filled. I'm just going to use a little white space to make this a little more obvious for me. Let's see, floating hint. There's a question of how many of these are worth having. Okay, so go here, down base, down base. This becomes numeric up down. This flips to the base one. Then we self-close. Delete all this garbage. And copy this. Paste it here. Decimal. Go. Decimal. Okay, so that is the floating up down. This one is just the basic one, so I don't need separate ones for it. Just those three. Okay. Check our work real quick. Make sure that I haven't done anything horribly bad. So that's just a formatting with a rename. Oh, the formatting is going to make my life off-white. Don't care about the formatting. Just going to ignore it. Okay, so up, down, base. Numeric, up, down, decimal. Up, down, base, decimal, decimal. Okay, this one, it's base on the end of it. This is going numeric, numeric, up, down, base, decimal, decimal, up, down, base on the end, numeric, numeric, up, down, base, decimal, decimal, up, down, base. Okay. Great. Stage, once again, we're going to pretend like there was no mistake I don't see a mistake. There was nothing there. Nothing there. Send it. Okay. Now we'll turn the auto merge back on. Okay, so that gets that out of the way. Let's go and look here. Nikolai had a one in here. We're going to prioritize Nikolai's because he is one of the other maintainers. Let's see. Different background. Okay, so let's see. Fixes 3710. Let's see. A new way of controlling the background of the hint was introduced. While this fixed an issue for the outline style, it broke the other styles. Not being thorough in manual testing. This is the hard part with the theme library. Is does it look right? Is a really hard thing to unit test. Let's see. Introduces a new API to support the attached property in the other PR because it basically should only be used in the outline scenarios. Also reintroduces the style triggers previously new, but now sets the supporting AP value instead of explicitly setting the color. Okay, let's take a look. Let us take a look. Let's see. Apply hint padding brush. Dependency property. Owner is correct. False to false. That all seems fine. Okay, let's see its use. Okay, so this is going to be a little interesting because I'm going to have to be remembering a bit back on the other PR of what was actually, because this apply hint padding brush. I will say at some point on this stream, we are going to end up doing some Avalonia because my day job, I have been doing quite a bit of Avalonia work and I have thoroughly enjoyed myself. Avalonia is a wonderful XAML-based framework. There are a few things I have not enjoyed with it. Are very minor in compared to the things that I love. Let's just one thing really quick. I want to grab the pull request. Collapse this up. I would like to check out this PR. And let's just run this sucker real quick because I just want to see it run. The hard part is the smart hint is a control that is used to basically show like the floating hints side of text boxes, combo boxes, etc. The real big disadvantage is it's not because it's kind of a foundational piece, so many controls, it's difficult to thoroughly test. But there's a nice one in here. Fields line up. That has quite a few of the options available. Doesn't fully show the right, so we can test a couple of these, but I don't think any of them are going to break here. I wouldn't expect them to. Testing a little bit. Sure, Nikolai has probably done significantly more testing than what I'm likely to do. Very good at this, but that he's also very good about if there is areas to look at. Wash and merge that sucker. That in. Okay. Let's see. Using free. So I'm kind of picking these at random a little bit, but I also am aware that some of these are good. Now, this one here, I believe was somebody doing it for Hacktoberfest, which is fine. He wrote a decent amount of documentation and shoved it into the docs folder, which is good. I appreciate this, and I've been mostly just checking to make sure it's correct. Some of it is duplicating a lot of what it's in the Microsoft docs, which is less beneficial, but at the same time, it's also useful docs, and I see that people end up looking here as well. So it's like, I him and hod, but you know what? It's a docs page with a markdown file. We need a guide to migrate to Avalonia. Izzy, stand by. It's coming. Specifically, the one of the biggest things that I see. So one, if you have a big WPF investment and you want to go to Avalonia, and your company is willing to pay money, Avalonia has ported uh, WPF to like Mac. So if it's like, oh, like, because one of the questions is why go to Avalonia, right? If it's to get some of the newer syntaxy stuff, that's kind of cool because they've got some really cool stuff that's built in. Like they've got Snoop built into your app on debug builds. You press F12, it's very slick. Let's go ahead and grab some of these, double check them. And things of that nature. The biggest limitation that I see is they are a nice cross-platform framework, but they're only a UI framework, and they're unapologetic about it. Like they want to be a very good performance multi-platform UI framework, which is great. And the problem is the moment you say, "Well, I want this and that that's cross-platform," they go, "That's not our problem." Right? They go pull in something like Maui Essentials or similar if you want some of the backing controls, because that's not an issue that we care to address, which I get, but it also leaves people like in my mind, it leaves people without a good path forward because they haven't brought those things in. Now, I'm slowly adding to my template because my opinion is the way to fix this is a good starting project template that has all of those pieces kind of brought together. Great. There's also somebody has ported the material design in XAML library to Avalonia, which has been great. I've been very happy to see it. It's a slightly older 4X version of the library that got ported, but the author has been very receptive because I've been submitting issues and similar, and I owe him some PRs because I offered to update a handful of things for him that like either got missed when he brought it over or similar, but it's made me feel at home. I see it there. It's been great. So I will say the person who did this was very good at Markdown. Like I hadn't actually seen this tip thing before inside of Markdown for GitHub, and I didn't know that it worked, but I tested it. It does. It's kind of cool. Or like even these tables. Like there's a decent amount of stuff here. Um, there's a nice touch, and I like this may not be obvious to a lot of people who look at these links and go, okay, they're links to some Microsoft docs, but there's a subtle change that's been done to these. If we copy the link, if I take this link and I go here, right? There's a key change up here, right? This, do this, right? This little bit right here, NUS, right? There. Sorry, got my colors wrong. This ENUS, it tacks in the language. For Microsoft links, you can delete the language out of the URL, and then your link, if it's sent to somebody whose language isn't English or whatever English you viewed it in, it will use the browser's locale to try to look up an appropriate language for them. So when I'm putting links in, I oftentimes will try to drop the language portion of it because I want people clicking on it to get whatever language they have set, because English is my language, but it may not be theirs. So the fact that there was at least like whoever did this, it put a level of effort into doing this, and I think GitHub changed. I do checkbox used to stay pinned to the top, and I'm a little annoyed that it doesn't right now. But there's actually been cleanup of the links and similar, so it's like this is kind of nice. So yeah, the doc panel. Yeah, like again, the information here, I believe, resembles what's inside of the Microsoft Docs. Approve and run. Enable auto merge, enable auto merge. And I realized it was somebody just, I think, just going through trying to get their Hacktoberfest PRs in. And like, there was an open issue that I had out there for doing some of these doc related things. I think they've gone a little beyond what was initially originally asked for, but it's not bad. Kind of okay keeping. Because I also don't expect that these docs are ever going to really need a ton of updates. Given how stable WPF is, they don't really change that much. And it also gives me a nice thing to link to. Well, so that's kind of convenient. So there's a handful of things. It's important to note that this says list view. I might need to double check this. I think Data Grid has virtualization on by default. WPF rolls with. There is a table in the docs. This page. That. Yeah. Okay. So list view can be enabled. Okay. Okay. It doesn't say for Data Grid. I would assume Data Grid's on by default. Maybe not. Right? So like this virtualization mode recycling, that's what this is calling out here is container recycling is, can you enable it? Cool. Okay. See, I also wonder if somebody actually spent some time researching to know. Because so far, every time I've double checked something, the docs that it have been correct. Once again, cleaned up the links and dropped the language bits. Like there's a certain amount of elegance to these. Like if these were low quality docs changes, I'd be a little more hesitant, but they've been good so far. So we'll take them. We'll take them. Okay, those are all going. Let's see here. Still going. Oh, I got to approve and run again. Yeah. Okay, so that's now going. Okay, I want to see little ones. This one I want to look at again slower. Let's see. Fix code style issues. This I think was just a. Oh, this is just now afflicted. Okay, so we may have to go through and we may just go through and do a rebase, but let's check some of these here. Let's see. This should fix 3628. What is 3628? Show slider value tooltip without having to click first. Hey, C Films. Doing well. Happy to finally be back streaming after like 2 months out. So it is good to be coding. Let's see some info. Okay, so this one I think is worth playing around with to see. Let's check this one out. What's going on here? What's going on here? So focus parent slider on click. So it's internal. That's fine because it's got a kind of a funky name, but that's okay. Let's see. So on click changed. This guy here, just leveraging an attached property. I was actually chatting with a colleague earlier today about attached properties. We were doing Maui, not WPF, but explaining the idea of being able to hook up on changed events to add kind of fun stuff to them. Oh, that is interesting. Okay. There's something subtle that's happening here with this add handler and going through this route. So part of the reason for add handler versus just the plus equals is this Boolean down here. Normally what happens with routed events in WPF is they bubble up through the tree. And once a control marks the event as handled, the event still continues bubbling, but people who have registered for the event with just like, repeat button, preview mouse left button down, plus equals, right? They will only receive unhandled events. So from most registrations perspective, once it's handled, the event stops propagating. It still propagates. It just has its handled flag set to true. But if you register this way and set this to true, you get all the events, even the ones marked as handled. So it's sort of a way of saying, no, 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 I don't care if somebody inside handles it. I want to see it too. So it's worth noting. Tree helper find the null propagation gives me a bit of pause from. A little surprised. I might look at mouse button event handler. I'm surprised that this is object, but this could be an artifact of one of the older delegates. Let's see, slider, setter. Like this is fine, except for this. Like this is internal, so it's not like anyone can override this. Define parent. I'm surprised. Did we not already have a find parent? Surprised that we didn't have find parent in. With so, huh? Surprised at that. I would have thought that we had it. There's one minor thing that I'm noticing here. Calling get parent and there's no question mark here. It denote nullability, but then it's immediately checked for null. This is not technically a bug. So the important thing with nullable reference types in C# is there are multiple inputs to whether a variable is considered nullable or not. One of the inputs is how you've declared it with a question mark or without. Another one is if you check it for null, the compiler then immediately assumes that the value is nullable. And so it knows, oh, you checked it for null, so from this point forward, I'm going to assume that this thing is nullable. Well, there's a return, so from this point forward might literally be the next line, so it's not that far. But then we get down here and it goes, well, I know you were nullable, but I also know that you aren't null because we reached beyond the if. Kind of a weird thing, but in general, the question mark. Interesting. Okay, so let's play with this real quick. So fix 3628 over here. Fix 3628. See, add remote and checkout. That is the button that we want. Okay. Come here, we come here, and we launch. Other thing that I'm going to be looking to do is add in Velopack stuff into my templates. It'll probably be behind an optional flag. So you can do like, dash installers on the .NET new, be able to pick it up. But there's enough there that I think it's probably worth doing. Okay. Whoa. Oh, that is not the flavor of Mountain Dew that I thought I grabbed. Okay. Thought I had grabbed one of the Halloween flavored ones. I had actually grabbed a Purple Thunder, and that was not the flavor palette I was going for. Okay, so the interesting part here, these are the ones that should be showing it. Okay. Let me go back to that bug. So, okay, so the bug in question. Uh, yeah, so fan control is related to this project. The developer was kind enough to give credit where credit was due, which is great. Like that's the polite thing to do when you consume somebody's open source project is at least cite them as a source because open source projects like that's all they have is notoriety. So give them credit. It doesn't cost much. But I mean, like the license on here is MIT, which pretty much says you can do with this as you want. Uh, all you can't do is blame us for anything. I think is literally all it is. When using the mouse scroll wheel to change a slider, the value tooltip doesn't show unless clicking the slider first. Got it. So I need to be here. The issue I have is I don't see a way to like maybe I'm being dumb. Uh this thing doesn't respond to mouse wheel events. Does it? I don't am I missing something? Um Slider I'm I'm confused now immediately because now I'm wondering about this. Let's see. Reproduction steps. In the demo app, click on the tracks repeat buttons above or below the slider thumb. Note that the value changes, but the tooltip is not shown until you click on the thumb itself. Ah, okay. Okay. So, Ask Kevin was smart. So, in the demo app, click on the tracks here, here, above or below the slider thumb. That I just got to get it right on the tick. If I can get a thing to zero in on it, still get it to move without popping it. Interesting part. So this mostly works. Um, so let's see. Just yeah. So just setting his move. However, this would impact the UX since, as the name implies, got it. Okay. So is move to point enabled? I guess the question is move to point enabled on any? I guess the answer is no. Enabled. So this is probably better, but oh yeah, Izzy. Sorry, I just saw your message. Was driving. Can you show the event registration thing again? I think that may solve a bug that I have. Sure. Show. Let's see here. That was inside of here, and I guess I can show it in Visual Studio Slider Assist. Yeah. So the dirty little trick that's being done here is this add handler call for being able to register up an event, because repeat button also has, right, if I do repeat button, is it left mouse button down or preview left mouse button down, right? Because I could do this and go through and register up an event handler, but this event handler will only, yeah, stop it, will only be invoked if the handled flag is false. By going through the add handler method instead, you get access to this extra little boolean that says include handled events too, right? That lovely little guy. Oh, oh, lovely. Oktoberfest has confirmed that I've submitted enough PRs for them to qualify. Huzzah. Shocking since I didn't start till the 30th. But yeah, so that's all it is add handler, remove handler to be able to access it. Yeah, no problem. And I wanted to look at this. Oh, it is. It is object sender. Okay. Okay. I stand corrected. We're not gonna leave that floating around. Oh, I was gonna fix the find parent. This guy here should have a question mark. Yeah, shut up. The other thing that I was going to try, because I just wanted to confirm the change that it actually fixes what it poses, right, is down on, let's see, on the slider, line 20. Okay, so I just want to look here, line 20. So if we comment this out, I kind of wonder if the solution is, rather than listening to it on the repeat button, listening to something higher. Kind of gives me a thought, right? So this guy here, so this is much easier to reproduce because there are repeat buttons left and right of this guy. So if we grab everybody's favorite Snoop, right, drop that sucker in, right? So if we look at the slider itself, right? So a slider is made up of things, right? But the important things that the slider is made up of is these repeat buttons plus the thumb, right? So the repeat button, there's the one to the left, there's the one to the right, there's the thumb in the middle, right? What we've sort of identified though is I can get clicks to fire on the little tracks up here, and I actually wonder if I go here instead of background, because yeah, bet you if I do background red, yeah, so the only reason it's harder to hit is because without a background set, mouse events don't register, right? So background not set and background transparent are not quite the same thing. If I go transparent, right, I can now click anywhere inside of this red outline rectangle that Snoop is giving me, and my mouse events will be handled. So oftentimes when you have something like being able to click on that little tick where by doing so the tick now registers, it's usually because that thing has a color and therefore is hit testable and everything else doesn't. So it's kind of this, so the change makes it better. Say that. I'm not sure it's the right change. I'm not sure that it's the right change. So because this guy here, slider assist, so it's just watching for the mouse button and then propagating the click up to the slider. And I'm wondering if the solution is actually for the slider do it. So what is, right? Because all it's doing is moving focus to the slider. Because without it, focus doesn't move to the slider, therefore doesn't adjust. So Ask Kevin looked at this and let's see. So it's the discrete one. Focused halo. I think this is the guy. This animation, I believe, it was what's doing it. Be able to show off all of these things because there's an ellipse. Oh, the halo's probably the one around it. Where is the value? So I'm wondering if there's something somewhat simpler here. Slider tooltip converter. It's this text block. Brush background, vertical alignment. I believe this is the guy who's actually displaying the value. Let's just confirm that. So if I go here, a snoop window. So my text block is inside of label, which is inside of canvas. It's alongside halo. So canvas. There you are there. And so from the canvas, I'm looking for something with an X name of lowercase label. Where is, oh, grid is named label. That's not confusing at all. We named a grid label, and then the text block is the one inside of it. So yeah, so this is the guy here that's doing it. So this is what is getting the fun rendering bits of it. So somebody here, because he's the guy with the name, these are the storyboards that are triggering. And what are the triggers that fire? So there's your storyboard. Show, hide, focus, visual storyboard. Got to be a trigger or something down here that fires it. Because I'm looking for like a begin storyboard or similar. Not sure if that's a tooling thing or a problem thing. Let's see here. Only show focus when dragging. I think that's a bug right there. That is the wrong relative source. Oh, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Yeah, so there's the enter and exit action. So data trigger true. So when this guy goes true, so is dragging, he will show it. I think we can conclude we aren't in the is dragging case. This is the other one. So it is when is focused. And so focus is not being moved to the slider is what is killing it. I think we can fix this. I think we can fix this. Let's take a look because I think there's probably okay. Come down here. Right. So I am going to be watching very closely on this focused element right down here on Snoop. If I can remember how to use right that guy there. Focused element null. Now we're here. Drawer host. So when I click here, focused element isn't right. That guy is jumping around and is not gaining focus. So I am going to be interested in focusable elements. Specifically, if we look at like the repeat button, if I make the repeat button focusable, that make it no. Why Why does that not work? Let's go here on our events. Let's clear these out. Then, Izzy, have a good one. This train is not a train. Watch out for trains. Don't go to the light. Have a good day. Let's see. Got focus, lost focus. We want to keep. Don't care about keyboard stuff. Don't care about keyboard stuff. I want the mouse. Mouse down, preview mouse down, mouse up, preview mouse up. Those. That I care about. Okay. Show me what happens when I click here. Okay, so the slider handles the preview mouse down, but it doesn't appear that we move to, but the focus event never fires. Preview mouse down handled by slider. So on the way down, so the preview events are what are called tunneling, and then the regular events are what are called bubbling. So when you click, the preview event starts kind of at the top level of your tree here and works its way down, tunneling its way down until it finds the element under your cursor, and then that event bubbles back up, right? So the preview is on the way down till it finds the thing, and then mouse down would propagate its way back up. So we see preview mouse down, mouse up, but preview mouse down went down and then never, mouse down never fired, right? Because slider marked it as handled, and then it continued going down through the slider's elements, right? So the event keeps going, right? And it gets all the way down to the repeat button, which is why this guy here was registering up for that event and then moving focus to it when it occurred. What is WPF? So WPF is a Windows-specific desktop app framework. So it is the best tech that Microsoft came out with in 2005 and still exists today. It lacks a little bit in popularity due to its age, but it's also really stable because of it. Like, people still build apps in it. It's one that I very much love. I enjoy this XML XAML based stuff, and so I do a lot of work in it. If people are looking for a more modern alternative, my current pick is Avalonia. So Avalonia UI. So it's not a waffle pancake house. No, it is not. But that is, you are now making me hungry for waffles. My wife makes fun of me because it is quite common for me to get hungry late at night, and my default setting is to go make waffles at like midnight, which is not bad. Like, midnight waffles are great. I like my midnight waffles. Okay, so I think the original author actually it left a nice it was on the issue here. So for people who aren't aware of this, this is like the worst possible URL to try to communicate verbally, but source .net, you can actually browse the source code in .net in a nice, easy way. What would mix of waffle and pancake be like? Glorious. A good question. So I will clarify. The waffle maker I have is old school. The waffle maker might be older than me because I remember my parents using it when I was a child. So I don't know exactly how old it is, but it's got decades of life on it. I know that much for certain. But it does not make, some people make waffles that are the real thick ones with the deep holes. Mine are the real thin holes. They're only like a 1/4 inch thick, maybe a little more on each side, and the total waffles, like, I don't know, somewhere between a 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch thick. So my waffles are only, yay thick to begin with. So they aren't much thicker than some people's pancakes. Depending on where you're from, they're thinner than some people's pancakes. But It's interesting that this thing marks it as handled. Is move to point enabled, track. So it updates the value. It just, and it marks it as handled, but never. See, I'm kind of wondering if a better fix here. And this is, so if we go with this same idea, right? And rather than applying this on a repeat button, slider, right? I think the fix might be something more akin to this. Think. Let's see. I think we do something like that, honestly. And then we come back over to here, and rather than setting this here, we come over here and go to the discrete thumb, slider horizontal, slider vertical, discrete slider horizontal. I want the style that uses these. Discrete horizontal slider, right? So I do this. I go here. And then I go here. And then we recompile and launch. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Dang it, now I am hungry for waffles. Once the stream ends, I'm going to go make some waffles. This is not good. I wasn't hungry until now, and now I'm hungry. Okay, so if we come down here, click, that works. Now, the one thing I'm really interested in is let's see if we can, because the other failure case was with a transparent background. All right, so if we go up here and we set background, and we set transparent, just to make it easier to click anywhere, if I click here, moves. I kind of like that better. I think I like that better. Because then it doesn't matter if you hit the repeat button or if you hit anywhere on the track. Because it'll catch both on the way in. I'm now wondering if it should be exposed or if it should be internal. Ooh, what if you took a piece of cheese? Okay, C-Films, you are really making me hungry. Chicken and dipped it in waffle batter and cooked it in a waffle maker. That would probably be very good. So I saw this thing, I think it was on TikTok or one of the platforms. I was scrolling through a timeline feed. Somebody took a cheese stick and put it on a skewer and dipped the cheese stick in waffle batter and then cooked that on a waffle maker, and you get a cheese-filled waffle. And I saw that video. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. And I'm like, the best way. I was like, I have cheese sticks. I have waffle maker. Let's do this. I tried it. It totally works. And it's really, really good. You got to get your waffle batter thick, because if it's too runny, it just kind of goes crazy. So you want extra thick waffle batter. But then it totally works. And you get these nice cheesy filled waffles that actually go really well. You can dip them in, well, I'll dip them in like something a little more savory. Like at the time, we had some salmon cream cheese. Mwah. Wonderful. Wonderful stuff. It like not quite like I imagine like marinara sauce, like a mozzarella stick. It would go in well. I think I didn't. We don't have mozzarella sticks very often, so I didn't have anything to work with, but I suspect it would be amazing. Okay. I think I like this slightly better. And then it resolves the original poster's issue. I'm now just questioning whether this should be public or not. Oh, sorry, not that one. This one. Because I'm wondering if it should actually be focus slider on click. And if we name it slightly better, I think this makes it better. Let's do this. I think this is better. And I think exposing it is probably okay. I'm gonna dial this sucker down to. Oh, should we do range base instead of slider? Probably okay. Just looking at what the other ones are. But now if we go public, we can public this thing. Public. On, and then we're going to rename this sucker to not have the word parent in it. On the other side, so my big head doesn't get in the way. Fine here. And indent that a little bit just so it lines up nicely. And I think rather than regioning it, we're just going to do a comment. I'm one of the people who, like, I have a love-hate relationship with region. They're okay, but ugh. Bothers me that these two have to get set in reverse order from reorder. It bothers me. I get bothered about little things. Okay. Goes like that, that goes like that, that goes like that. That is perfect. I think this is a better solution. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in let's see. Moving this to be on the slider itself. I want to double check the XAML. Let's see here, and we should format XAML, make it pretty. That format, and then I want to remove this line here. Check my diff real quick. Lapse you like that. We should double check that this works. Only show visual while dragging. Double check that to make sure I haven't broken anything. That's the change we expect. We no longer need this tree helper method. Do we kill it? Probably, because I don't. The problem is every API I leave in that's public, I have to support, and the less things I have to support, the better. So until we have a need for it, we'll kill it. And then here. Oh, do that. Oh, we wanted to test the is dragging bit. I think our demo app has one with that flag already set. Oops. Focus slider on click. The nice part by exposing this is this will allow if somebody wants to get the old behavior back, they can turn it off. Maybe it should default to false. I don't think so. It feels weird that focus doesn't move when you click on it on a slider. The fact that the slider does that, it feels wrong. I think it's actually, let's see. What I'm looking for is that property for only showing while dragging. Disabled. Yeah, do we not set it anywhere? Fine, we'll test it. We will test it with Snoop. Go here. Search dragging. There, turn it on. Only show focus visual while dragging. That is doing the opposite of what we wanted. That is showing it always. Clearly that changed. Come down here. Unstage that. Let's discard those changes. Test this one more time. Did I discard the wrong change? Oh. Oh, I didn't. Did I not save it? So line 1019 is going to have the same bug. I've undone something that I didn't intend to undo. Okay. Keep it focused on just the story in question. But it does feel like we should have one that shows off the other option as well. Don't have to save it every time. It's actually one of the things about the demo app I've contemplated changing is rather than trying to show everything in every possible combination, it seems like it might be useful to have a page where you pick a control, we show you a set of like the common properties, and you can then just tweak parts. Yep, that is desired behavior. Okay, so we're gonna ship as we've got. So be on the slider. Side. This also fixes it. Slider has background color for the user on the X on the track above below the track. We're gonna roll with that. I'm questioning. Save something. Yeah. They're going to push that sucker. How is Git cracking? Well, so I'll preface this with I am a incredibly biased source. I absolutely love it. You will find that. So I am also a Git Kraken ambassador. I do workshops for them. I constantly make content related to them. Oh, I forgot to plug it earlier. I didn't plug GitCon. I need to plug GitCon. So gitcon.com. So it won't necessarily just be Git Kraken stuff. It's going to be Git related stuff, development related stuff. This is a conference that they put on every year. Hey, look, me. I made the list. So there will be a great group of speakers. At least one of them will be very, very interesting and very fun. So definitely feel free to check it out. It's going to be a lot of Git related stuff, obviously because it's around GitCon. Currently use the source control built into VS Code, and that's actually not bad. The other thing that they actually have is Git Lens, which was an extension that they had, or an extension that was built for VS Code that existed before GitKraken purchased them, but then GitKraken bought GitLens and brought the creator on as a, I don't know, is he a director? I don't. He has some high-ranking title now in the company, and now he gets to work on GitLens there, and it really is just added benefits inside of VS Code for being able to see more information. For people who only care about, hey, I want to commit, I want to push, I want to pull, I want to change branches, hey, you're off to the races. The thing that I love most about it is this kind of history graph, because some projects, this doesn't matter, right? You're a solo dev on a project, everything's nice and linear, you're not real concerned, there's not a lot of stuff going on. Maybe it's overkill. Um, but for things like this where it starts getting complicated, like I have trouble visualizing what my history graph looks like. And so being able to see it here, the people who do stuff entirely on terminal, I am impressed by. They can visualize things that I can't. I like having my pretty pictures in my boxes to be able to drag stuff around. And they're constantly kind of adding in more developer productivity stuff. Like you'll see on their site that GitKraken is somewhat focusing around kind of holistic dev tools rather than just Git related tools, because they've got their GitKraken dev, browser extensions, CLI, stuff that helps you deal with Git, but also kind of works around the developer productivity of, I want to be able to push stuff through. I know someone who works at GitKraken. Cool. You know role name? Maybe I've come across them, because there's a handful of them that I work with every so often. They tend to be slightly more marketing-y folks. For some reason, marketing folks like me because I make videos and talk and say nice things about them. But yeah, so I absolutely love their stuff. I think they are one of the best um one of the best Git tools out there. Uh, there's a handful of other ones. Like I know Fork is quite popular, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's very good. Uh, I didn't mark this thing as where it was going to go. Milestone. I want this thing in the release. Oh, and I got to approve it. Given that I just pushed the branch, I think we can conclude that it should be pushed. Cool. That got a lot more stuff in. Okay. Close tabs. When I click the close button, we'll actually close tab 1. Why is this issue closed? I don't know if anyone can hear that, but apparently my Amazon device that is nearby, I must have said something that triggered. And that man parameter. Ah, interesting. Oh, because selected tab isn't the tab in question. Got it. This is good. The one thing about this that so binding period is the equivalent of binding path equals period, which is also the equivalent of omitting the path entirely. So we can actually we'll just check this one out, because I assume this will be quick. Well, we might end on this. End on a high note. Right? So this guy here is that file again, tabs.xaml. Thank you. I actually wonder if We might have this problem on multiple apps. Did this one have a tabs? No. One have it? Probably does. Imagine. No? Come on, Visual Studio. Stop hanging. Nope, it doesn't. Okay. Cool. So it's going to be just this one. So down here, this guy. Our line number. Come on, where are you? 735. Glad I didn't just. 7. Okay. For the design. Not like you. 735. Boom. So we can actually do this, and then we should be able to verify that that also still. At some point, I may go through, like, the original guidance when I took over the library was don't show preference to one MVVM library over another. The problem is the battle of MVVM libraries has kind of been fought and won already. So I kind of am willing to disregard that. Because that was back when there was at least like 3 or 4 reasonable choices. Product UX designer. Okay. Cool. Yeah, my understanding is it's actually a reasonable place to work too. So let's see. So tab 1 is the selected. So if I hit X, closes tab 3. Huzzah. We'll just push. Clean up binding path. Commit. Push. And we'll then go back to the PR. Oh, actually, why am I? Click the button. It's right in front of me. Be a moron. Prove and run. Enable auto merge. Enable auto merge. We're going to put this in the milestone. Label it as demo app. Away it goes. And then go in here and we hit the approve. And it goes. There we go. There we go. Just like that, we've got a lot of stuff merging very, very rapidly. Okay, so I may need to look at that one closer. I remember seeing. I think for now, we've now merged what? A bunch of PRs today. So yeah, 4 PRs merged. 2 more likely to merge with autocomplete once the pipeline's done validating that we haven't broken anything. So 6 PRs in a night, that feels pretty good. That feels pretty good. I am happy with that. They're developed. You know Chris. I assume that's when you say developer advocate. Yeah, no, Chris and I chat fairly often. In fact, I think I've got a call with him coming up this week. Yeah, that is awesome. For people who haven't, hang on, I will go find it. Chris is great and also streams on Twitch. Let me grab his stuff. He does a lot of web dev related stuff. Where is? Yeah, so anybody who wants to check him out, go give him a follow. You can tell him I sent you. But yeah, he does a lot of web dev related stuff. Very good, very great guy. Just gave a talk at GitHub Universe about how GitKracking uses Copilot. So yeah, go give him a follow. He's worth it. Yeah, so yeah, that is awesome, C Films. But yeah, so I think I'm gonna probably call it there for the night. Now that we got a bunch of stuff done, I feel a little better, feel a little more caught up. I was feeling very behind on the library after being offline for so long and not having anything going. It feels better to have stuff, all the stuff going. So with that, I will tell everybody happy coding. Check out GitCon. As always, see you next time.